Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you.
Little Philip was walking home. I better read this because I didn't practice it. In the rain with his mother following Sunday church, and he finally stopped raining, and as they rounded the corner, where to their surprise and their delight appeared a vivid double rainbow in the sky. "Doesn't it look like an artist painted this rainbow?" his mother exclaimed. "I bet God painted this just for you." "Yes," replied Philip. "God did it, and he did it left-handed." And confused, his mother said, "What makes you think God did this with his left hand?" "Because we learned this morning in Sunday school that Jesus sits on God's right hand." Cute, right? Generations. I've chosen this title today, The Abundance, or Generational Abundance, because we kind of started this whole abundance teaching thing in the New Thought movement, recognizing that by opening our mental awareness of the presence of God anywhere, that we can call forth abundance. And we often talk about it in abundance and prosperity in our financial lives. But as Mary was talking about in the conference that she's going to be doing in May, it's not just money. It's around our health and our relationships, around our creative expression in the world. There's so many ways that we get to open our eyes to the reality of the presence of Spirit in every area of our life, even when it looks like it's lack, even when it looks like something has been cut off from good. By simply opening our mind to a greater truth, we can demonstrate, we can manifest abundance into our experience. Isn't that cool? And is that cool? Okay, I wasn't sure. People are like, I don't know about if I want more good in my life. You need to take some of these classes Jean Marie was talking about. Well, this service was so full, and I just could not figure out how we were going to get one more thing in there, but I figured it out through abundance. One of the other ways that we practice our abundance in Unity is, I grew up in a fundamentalist church, and so we were very suspicious of those who weren't doing it like us. You know what I mean? Anybody else have that? Where there's only one way, and it's our way. Aren't we glad we're on the in-group and those poor suckers out there? And so when I got to this teaching, I was told that that it's the same God in all these other religions, and there are eternal truths that are just spoken in different ways. And so I began to have my spiritual walk enriched by the abundance of other faith traditions. A few weeks ago now, we took 20. Who are those crazy people in the white over there? I'm about to explain that to you. These are our people. We took a spiritual pilgrimage. Why don't you all go ahead and come on up to Bali, Indonesia. 27 of us went to partake in the spiritual abundance of that tradition and of that teaching. And so what happened for us there was really profound. You see, the Hindu culture there, they don't proselytize. They don't want to convert anyone away from their own religion, but they welcomed us into their temples. They taught us the blessings and ceremonies, and they taught us how to be present. And we were gifted our temple garb, the sarongs, and the men wore headdresses. And my goodness, was it an incredible experience. And the bonding that's happening right now on your stage, it happened so powerfully for us, where we got to experience such abundance. And from the generosity of the Balinese people and our guides were just amazing. So I've asked just a couple of people to come share their experience. Ricardo, would you mind going first?
First?
You're first.
You know what you say I'll do?
Number 7, please, Cameron.
Uno, dos.
There you go.
You know what you say I'll do, and then say what I'm doing. Bali, wow. Friendship, this was not planned. Brotherhood and sisterhood, first and foremost. Bali allowed me to meet these wonderful people. What is Reverend Karen? she's not here.
Yeah,
Allowed me to have a deeper appreciation for Unity of Houston. And so my commitment grew with that. Besides my personal own experience, it was a weird, interesting trip to my childhood, the moment that I stepped out of the airport. I'll tell you everything about it if we meet after that. But it was something that is not a cliche. My life before and after Bali. And it's coincidental that yesterday I have a beautiful healing session that things start putting together. Wow. So thank you forever.
Good to go to Amy. Thank you, Ricardo. Now, Amy Waterman has a couple words to say.
So hi, everybody. So I'm a new member of Unity, and before I went on this trip, I knew none of the people on this stage. So I went on a trip with strangers, and I was often up there in the top of Unity because I was kind of guarded, right? Like, I'm going to check it out here. I don't know if these people are fully me. What if I don't like it? The whole thing. So I go to Bali, and the Hindu community there believes in karma and putting as much positive karma in the world as they can. They believe that we're all one. And when I was there, I got this experience personally of being bathed in love, kindness, unexpected generosity. It was overwhelmingly beautiful. And it came from the Bali people and giving us their culture, helping us learn. But it also came from the people on this stage. The level of you could sit with anyone and have the moments you were having. And what I would say is I shifted in Bali from being a guarded but positive person to being a space of big love and seeing the world as all of us are one.
Oh. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, guys. That's it. I just wanted to parade you out in your temple garb. You can go back to your seat now. Thank you so much. And I almost forgot. I did forget, but now I'm remembering. Has nothing to do with this amazing thing, but about our community. Boris Britt, many of you know, our beloved soloist, I think for 27 years, he's been blessing us. He received his new kidney on Tuesday. So I'm just overwhelmed with gratitude. We have been praying for that man for years, for this day to happen, and it happened on Tuesday. There is a GoFundMe. We don't post individuals' GoFundMes, but I want to tell you how to get to it. You just simply Google or any search engine, Boris Britt, B-R-I-T-T, GoFundMe, and it's going to take you right to the page. He has about $75,000 in need for he's in the VA, he's a veteran, so that might inspire some of you to support this. And there's just a lot of expenses, and of course he can't work for quite a while. He was in ICU for several days, but the doctor was pleased with the transplant from the very beginning, and he's been in a private room, and he'll be there. So Boris, if you're watching, we love you. We celebrate this with you, and we're going to continue to pray for you. We love you, Boris. I've got to give a talk now. Let's see. What am I talking about? Oh, I did want to say one more thing about if you are new to this, like I was, 30 years ago, it was like, who are they? And they didn't even have people in weird outfits on my first day there. But if you're new, I just want to tell you this thing that I came across recently, which helped me tremendously with being open to the gifts of other faith traditions. It was Dr. King himself, Martin Luther King Jr., who said that the greatest Christian he ever met was named Mahatma Gandhi, who was a Hindu. The way he practiced what Jesus brought to earth was the greatest he'd ever seen. And Gandhi said, Christianity is wonderful. Someone should try it someday. Isn't that great? And most of us who have a problem with Christianity, it's not Jesus. It's some of his followers that we kind of have, the issue with. I'm so grateful for here in Unity, we seek to live by the teachings of this incredible rabbi who lived 2,000 years ago in the Middle East, and not the religion that grew up around him. Wherever, like when I say wherever you are in your spiritual path, you're welcome here, we really mean that we have a generosity. We offer all of our teachings and practices, and if any of them don't work, put them on the back burner. There was in the recovery tradition, the saying is, take what you can use and leave the rest. We're not trying to change your mind, but if you have an open mind, we believe that what we have here can really change your life for the better. Our purpose statement says that in community, Those are the first and two most important words. You've got to be in it, and you guys got in it in a big way when we went to Bali together. In community, we nurture and transform. No, we nurture and empower each other, transforming our lives that we may serve the world. That's the whole purpose of spiritual community, is so that we can have a container of personal transformation so that we're free, we get out of our own wounds and hurt and pain, and we're free to give our gifts and be a part of the healing and the transformation of humanity. Or maybe just our own marriage, or maybe just our relationship with our children. But we become, as we open to the truth of the spiritual reality of who and what we are, that healing cannot help but flow from us into those that we meet. It's the most powerful and beautiful thing. I was talking to a friend of mine. I was in Dallas briefly, like for less than 24 hours, to see Micah, my little girl up there. And her mom and I were talking about community. And years ago, we were part of the same community in Dallas. And we did this process Michael Beckwith taught called visioning. And one of the things that came up in those years was the community as a space of transformation. Not teaching anything, not doing anything, just creating the container. That was the word. Community as a container for transformation. Sometimes all you got to do is just show up here, and by osmosis, you can receive some healing. Anybody get healed during that grateful song? My goodness. I could feel something in me opening and broadening, deepening, just in the presence of that beautiful music and your consciousness choir singing through your voices. Incredible. What am I talking about? I don't think any of this is in my notes. Yeah, all right. So there are many kinds of abundance, not just about money. And in unity, we are open to seeing the presence of God everywhere at all times. Back to the generations. You know, this current crop of humans on planet Earth, there are about 7 billion of us, I think. 8 billion? Okay, thanks. It keeps going up, doesn't it? At some point, though, the birth rate is declining. They're saying that we may not have to fear overpopulation in the ways that we once did, but we won't be around to tell, so who knows. But we're like a river. If you think about that, you know that old saying, you can never step in the same river twice, because the water is different and because the people are different. When we step in it again, we're different. And so even though we can see the long connected line to the 100 billion people who have lived in the Homo sapiens after we showed up on the planet, and we're the current generation, the largest generation of it, and in that generation we have the 6 generations we talked about just a moment ago, we are one river, and yet we are each individualized expressions of the perfection of God. It's really a powerful, mind-blowing concept that each of us, there's a music lyric. Jason Gray wrote this song. I don't remember the song, but the lyric is this: God put a million doors on earth for his love to walk through. One of those is you. And one of those is me. The meaning for incarnation, the reason we are here, because we are eternal, birthless, deathless, changeless, spiritual entity. That's what we are. Individualized expression of God's own creativity, love, light, joy, power, peace, and beauty. That's what we are. This human thing is just for a minute. And yet it is incredibly important, incredibly sacred, because in this moment, yes, being born in that family with all of that trauma, yes, being born in this country or wherever country you come from with its own generational trauma and pain, it's sacred because you offer the hope that through you, a little bit more of God's freedom and love and joy have the possibility of coming into human collective consciousness. See, all you got to do is come hear that choir and you're raising the vibration of the planet. Isn't that cool? Think about singing in that choir, what that might do. Think about what that might do. See, you feel that vibration raising. And yet we become so isolated. We are the loneliest generation of planet Earth because we don't need each other as much as we used to. You know that? We actually used to, in the old days, the barn raising days, that the community gathered, a family needed a new barn on their farm, people gathered and built them a barn. It's what they did because they had to survive. And now we don't do that in that same way. And it's so easy to isolate. Our Surgeon General has said that we are in an epidemic of loneliness. It's so easy to pull away. And community is the opportunity for us to pull in, is to open the kimono a bit, as they say in Zen Buddhism. We do have limits and boundaries, I'm not saying. It's a metaphor, a spiritual metaphor for authenticity, for vulnerability, to really come together in a spiritual community, find some people in a small group that you can trust them with your hurt and your dreams. You can begin to share who you truly are. And then the loneliness, that isolation, that terminal uniqueness is a term that comes from the recovery community as well. We can begin to let that go and go, oh my gosh, I'm just like Shirley. I'm just like Jean Marie. I'm just like Jeff. We share such similar, the details are different, but we have the same struggles. We have the same fears. We also have the same dreams and possibility within us. And so think of community as a container of your transformation, which in turn sends ripples and waves out beyond this church into human consciousness. That's what we're about. It's holy and important work. And I was thinking, too, about this building celebrating its 20th anniversary. I think it was about $11 million, I think is what it cost. And most of that was raised before we even broke ground. I wasn't here then, but this is what I've heard. I did a little math, and with construction costs and inflation, it's probably closer to $25 million that this would now take to build this building right here. And yet, we did not ask for your part of that when you came in here today, did we? As a matter of fact, earlier this month, we paid it off. There was a little bit of debt left, and it's debt-free. This thing is paid for. Actually, you paid off the mortgage. Your gifts, your contribution, your commitment. So think about that. You're sitting in a $20 million gift. And who's that gift from? It's from the generation before us and this generation who are saying and believing in that generation to come. It's an incredible thing to be a part of a community. I don't know how I don't know what's going to be. I'm thinking about retirement. I've got a few years away, don't worry. Or maybe you were getting excited, I don't know. But I've got a few years, and I'm really beginning to think about it as my friends are starting to retire. It's like, I know that I don't want to be senior minister of Unity of Houston forever, but I need community. What's that going to look like? And I'm curious about it. What do I want to tell you about generational abundance? The last couple of things here. In the Western religion tradition, which is dualistic, God is often portrayed as a being outside of creation that is judging. And so in Exodus, there's a statement that says that God will visit the sins of the father even into the third and fourth generation. Have you heard this? And it's an attempt to explain generational trauma. What I've come to see from a oneness perspective and in unity is that God doesn't judge and punish. We do that. And there's also this thing called the law of cause and effect. Sometimes in the Eastern traditions, like Hinduism and Buddhism, it's described as karma. And God doesn't do anything but just be and is. It's just ising pure love and light and joy all the time. But the universe works under certain laws. And when we're not in harmony with those laws, we will experience what can feel like punishment. And we inherit what feels like punishment. And the beautiful thing about our teaching is that we can set a new cause into the law of cause and effect. If we're the ones to be willing to be different in our thinking, in our consciousness, we can begin to heal generational traumas for ourselves, for our children and grandchildren, and for the ancestors before us. I was thinking about my great-grandparents. They were born in the late 1800s. I knew them well. They died in the 1970s. They're just amazing. They were born and they lived before planes were even a thing. And I'm getting on a plane and flying around the world to Bali with a bunch of crazy people from Houston. they would be astounded at the life that I live today. And I was thinking about what did I inherit from them? The gene for alcoholism, that's one thing. I inherited that. But also a deeply connected spiritual truth. My great-grandmother was a Pentecostal prayer warrior. She knew the presence of God. And her prayers were connecting to it in different language and a different understanding than we do it here, but demonstration, manifestation occurred because of her consciousness of the presence of God. I witnessed it, and I'm the recipient of it. We joke in our family that everybody is either a preacher or an alcoholic, and some of us are both. So I got all those genes. And the spiritual heritage that I gained from them. We all inherit the hurts and the hopes of our families. We inherit the hurts and the hopes of humanity. And even this church has inherited hurts and hopes. But what we're doing today is stepping into the possibility. I wanted to share a Bible story today, and I was going to talk about when Samuel, the high priest, anointed David as the new king of Israel, and that's a great generational story because he was the youngest. I thought, that's not it. Let's go back. And I remember the story in 3rd chapter of 1 Samuel. If you don't know the story, that Samuel was prayed for by his mother Hannah. She was desperate for a child. This is in chapter 1. And she was praying at the temple with such fervor, like my grandma Gott. I mean, she was just in it, and she was praying, and the high priest at that time, Eli, he thought she was drunk. And he said, "Woman, what are you doing? What's wrong with you? Are you drunk at this hour?" And she said, "No, I'm asking God, the Lord, Adonai, Elohim, to give me the desire of my heart, a child." And he said, "May your prayer be answered by God." And it was. She gave birth to this son that she loved with all of her heart. She named him Samuel, which means God heard me. God heard me. And she had prayed her prayer that, "God, if you give me this son, I will dedicate him to your service." So when the time came, she brought him back to the temple to learn from Eli. And he was there in chapter 3 as a child. He was helping Eli out in so many ways. Eli had lost his sight. And in the middle of the night, little Samuel heard his voice being called, "Samuel, Samuel." And he ran into Eli and said, "Yes, I heard you. What do you need?" And Eli said, "I didn't call you. Go back to sleep." A second time, "Samuel, Samuel." He got up. He ran in. "What do you need? I'm here. I heard you." It wasn't me. A third time, he heard his name, "Samuel, Samuel." And he runs into Eli, and Eli recognized the power of that third time. 3 in Hebrew numerology is the time needed for something to have a spiritual transformation. And he recognized this was God speaking. And he said, "The next time it happens, Samuel, say this: 'Your servant is listening.'" Samuel went back to bed, and the voice came in his room, "Shemuel, Samuel." And he said, "Your servant is listening." And the voice of Spirit spoke to him about things that weren't right and needed to be addressed. The next morning, Eli said, "What did God say?" And he said, "I don't think you want to hear it. It's about you and your kids." And Eli, even though he had not been a perfect man, and he bore a lot of responsibility for things his sons had done, and he had not restrained them. They were wicked men, according to the scripture. He said, "I want you to tell me all of it, and I trust God to do what is right." Why am I telling you that story today? Because we sit in a time when the younger generation is saying, "Something's wrong. You guys didn't do what you needed to do, and we're inheriting a lot of problems." And what we want to do as the older generations is shut our ears to it, is not take responsibility. And so the invitation today for all of us to say is, "Your servant is listening. Show me what's here, God. Open my eyes and my ears to recognize that I am a part of the healing of humanity. Show me what's here for me to do today. And am I willing to listen to what those younger or older than me might have to give to me today?" That's what we're talking about today. What else do I want to tell you? We need to become more open and flexible. Young ones, these elders in this community have wisdom from their hard-earned experience. It can be useful. Your servant is listening. Open your ears. Elders, these young ones bring energy. In a minute, there's going to be some very youthful energy in this room, and I want you all to be prepared. Watch your judgment. Can you allow the energy and the joy of the younger ones to remind you of the child that still lives within you? This is a rich, abundant moment. Pray with me now. Giving thanks for the gifts of this church, these people, these generations, we say, God, show me what's here for me to do now. How can I be a part of a new demonstration, a new manifestation of your love, your possibility and creativity? How can I be a part of the healing? How can I do what is needed for those who come after? How can I gain the experience of those who came before? We are here, we're listening, we are grateful. And so it is. Amen. And if no one has told you today that they love you, I love you. God bless you.
Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.